Welcome back to Untaming Masculinity, the podcast where we tackle issues relevant to men and their journeys to reclaim their masculinity. I'm Dan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend Brad. What's going on today, man?
Oh man, not much. Today is my son's 5th birthday, so thanks to you and being flexible, I'm currently recording in my boss's office at work. I got to go home. My son really wants to go bowling, so we're just going to go hit up the bowling alley and have ourselves a grand old time. How about you, man?
Bowling with a 5-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like fun. Get the bumpers out and everything.
The bumpers have that like track that you can roll the ball down. It's gonna be fun.
I remember that. They used to have one that looked like a dinosaur. My kids loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, things are good here. The kids are, in the middle of the tryout season for high school sports. So one daughter is not doing anything, but one daughter is trying out for the field hockey team, and she has been introduced to double sessions this week, which is yeah, buddy. I'm like, this is real sports now, kiddo.
None of this.
She's doing
one
good.
Practice and treats afterwards. It's the big leagues.
No, she's doing really good. And the coaches had a parents meeting last night. Apparently, my wife went to it. I had to pick up my other daughter from something else. But apparently, they stressed how it's, hey, listen, this is high school now. It's not parents call the coaches. It's kids bring issues to the coaches first, and we deal with it. And then if we have to get the parents involved, we will. So I'm really looking forward to this. But she's pushing hard. She's a goalie, so that makes life interesting. They've only got one varsity goalie, so she'll probably be the JV goalie and then dress for varsity games. We're thinking, but we'll see what happens.
Awesome. That's awesome. She's pretty fired up.
I'm excited though, because the new with her schedule and with the new job, I should be able to see most of her games, which is really good.
That's awesome.
That's always been something that in middle school that was tough, was getting out to games. So, anyways,
good, man. It's awesome.
Good stuff. So today we wanted to talk about something that I think a lot of men tend to back burner, and it's the topic of your appearance and why it matters. There's that old saying, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but 9 times out of 10, people are judged by their first appearance, right? So it's important as men for us to portray the image that we want to portray. And it's not about being fake, and it's not about being phony, but it's about dressing for the occasion and presenting yourself correctly for the occasion. So I know you had a couple of thoughts leading into this. Let's get those going, and then we'll run with it.
Yeah. I mean, you always hear the quote, don't judge a book by its cover, and how many men try to embody that. But here's the honest to goodness truth, right? We judge everybody based on first appearances. You look at somebody who's looking disheveled, they're wearing some superhero t-shirt, a pair of sweatpants, so they're shuffling around Walmart, you're instantly going to pass judgment on them. I don't care what kind of person they are. The fact of the matter is you don't have anything to go off of. You see what's in front of you and you realize this guy is somebody I can't take seriously. Yet while we look at somebody who's looking like that, we so often find ourselves doing the same thing. Cruising around, wearing ratty clothes, hair's a mess, for those of us who have hair, simply looking as if we don't care. What sort of message does that send? And, it goes beyond just the clothes that we wear. What's our posture look like? Do we struggle to make eye contact? Are we out of shape? Do we not look the part in any way? And the question you have to ask yourself is why? Why have we allowed ourselves to excuse away our appearance? Why have we given away that power simply because we want to be comfortable, or simply because we just, quote unquote, don't care? And that's a question that, I think about a lot. And it's something that I felt was worth a discussion because people care. People judge us based on how we look. And it's important that we start taking action to hold ourselves to that very same standard.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting to me how the concept of dressing well or having pride in your appearance seems to be almost counter to the masculine mindset. I can't tell you how many guys I know who consider themselves to be masculine men, and they think that dressing a certain way or dressing up or being proud of their appearance is not masculine. And it's not the case. I mean, you can be a very masculine man. You can dress very well. And when I say very well, that totally depends on your style, right? For one guy, it's a 3-piece suit. For other guys, it's a pair of jeans and a flannel shirt. But you can dress a certain way and look well and have a clean appearance and have stuff fit right and carry yourself a certain way and still be very masculine. So my question to you is, why do you think that is? Why do you think that men have this kind of counterintuitive situation where, if I take pride in my appearance, I am not masculine?
Honestly, I think it's something that's pretty recent. You look throughout history, you look back to the Roman Empire, you look back to, Native American tribes throughout the US, these elaborate headdresses, these incredible suits of armor. You think of, the British Empire, you think of Napoleon, you think of all these historical, powerful figures. They dressed the part. They absolutely looked the part. However, something over really the last, I would argue, 20 or 30 years has associated taking care of yourself as being feminine, gay, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And part of that probably stems from the media messages we've been receiving. Part of that probably stems from, the various environmental things. But yeah, at some point in the last generation or two, it was told men shouldn't care what they look like. Much like this whole movement that men are meant to go solo, to be a lone wolf. And that runs counter to everything we've been taught and everything that we have seen throughout the history of time. You can look at any example of any man historically, any man of power, any man of circumstance, any man of any sort of substance, and you see an appearance that matches that position. So I would say a lot of it has been driven by the culture and the environment in which we live. This could be tied to media, this could be tied to various other things that somehow caring about your appearance has been associated with being feminine or being gay or whatever else. I don't know if you have any thoughts around that, but that's kind of my sense of the situation.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I do think it's a relatively new thing. I look back at, and I think you mentioned it, but I look back at the show Mad Men.
Oh, yeah, that's a good example.
Right? Those guys, always well-dressed. Even when they were working the yard, they seemed to just dress better. But that was also a time in the country where people, men and women, would get dressed up to travel, right? You think about people on an airplane now, right? We're not wearing three-piece suits anymore to travel. We're wearing sweatpants, flip-flops, and a raggedy t-shirt because it's comfortable. But why? Why? Do you not feel better when you dress well, when you look, you look the part, you present yourself as a capable person, right? And I think this is an interesting topic too, because this is probably one of the few topics we've discussed where it's applicable to both men and women. We're going to take it, from a man's point of view, but this is applicable across the board. There's no need for anyone to dress slovenly or to present themselves in a sloven manner. But I'll bring this back to work for a minute, because in my career, I have interviewed a lot of people. And the saying you shouldn't judge a book by its cover is very true. We brought that up early in the podcast. Unfortunately, most decisions of hiring people are made within the first 3 minutes. And the first impression you make is the way you walk in the door. It's the way you look. It's the way you present yourself. It's the confidence you have. Are your shoulders slumped forward, or are they back and your head's up? And it's also the handshake that you give. Now, you don't have to go and break somebody's handshake, but you should learn how to have a nice handshake. That's part of your presentation. That's part of taking pride in your appearance. And if you walk into that interview and you're dressed the part, and again, it doesn't need to be a three-piece suit, but you're dressed clean, neat, appropriate for the position. If it's a high-end office job, then yeah, you probably should have a shirt and tie or even a suit on. If it's a job for a production floor, nice pair of jeans and a button-down shirt or a polo, perfectly acceptable. But, figure out what's right, but take pride in that appearance. That shows the interviewer that you are truly interested in that position and that you have pride in yourself and you have a vested interest in getting into this position. I've had guys walk in for production floor interviews who are probably very good production floor people, but they've literally walked into sweatpants and a t-shirt. And while I won't immediately shut down the interview, there's a lot of catching up that person has to do in the interview just to get back to the baseline of when the door opened. Versus if a guy shows up, and shows that they took some care in their presentation, all that wondering is out the window about whether they really want to be here, whether they really want the position. And now we can start talking, brass tacks about what's going on with the position, their skills and that kind of thing, and get down to it. Whereas if you come in a hot mess, it just doesn't show any pride in yourself. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we're going to hit on today is having a positive appearance or having a good appearance shows that you take pride in yourself.
If anybody follows Tanner Guzzi on social media, whether that's on Twitter or whether that's on Instagram, a question that Tanner Guzzi always kind of throws out almost facetiously is, but real men don't care how they look. And it's something that he's heard a lot. So he'll oftentimes put up these pictures of historical figures and suits of armor and different things like that to show men have always cared how they look. And while, guys say, you're saying, real men don't care how they look. Here's the honest to God truth. When you dress up, when you take the time to take care of your appearance, when you make sure that you're wearing clean clothes, when you're making sure that you're not wearing a pair of sweatpants to formal events, you feel good. It's easier to stand up a little bit taller. Your presence grows simply by just taking an effort and making an effort to look good. And when you do that, there's a lot of things that kind of follow suit. Just a little straighter, it's a little easier to make eye contact. You've got a little bit more confidence, a little bit more swag in your step. And those things go an incredibly long way. Just like Dan was saying, I've interviewed a lot of people as well. Not nearly as many as you have, Dan. But when they come in, the very first thing that I see, whether they come into my office to interview with me, or we do a lot of Zoom interviews now in this virtual world, if they turn on their camera and I see somebody in a t-shirt sitting in a cafe or a coffee shop, I immediately pass judgment. I immediately think, I don't know if this person's right for the job. Just like Dan said, they could be very well qualified, but they start in a hole and they have to dig their way out. But I'll tell you the other thing that I've observed. The men and women that I've interviewed that aren't dressed for the part, that do not look the part, they don't have the confidence. Their shoulders are a little bit more likely to sag. They're a little less likely to make eye contact. You can feel it in their countenance. Not always. That's not an ironclad rule, but more often than not, that's the case. More often than not, when folks jump on and they're dressed for an interview, they tend to sit up straighter. They tend to make more eye contact. Again, not ironclad, but more often than not, these people are much more prepared. And in my experience, we've extended far more job offers to the latter group than the former because they take themselves seriously and they know it. You see it in their countenance. It's obvious. Even if it seems almost subconscious or subliminal, there's a notable, tangible difference.
It comes back to, I'm sure you heard it when you were playing sports, but the whole concept of look good, play good. You've got a bunch of athletes, I can remember playing high school football, and we always felt like we were ready to play when we had our shirt sleeves tucked up under our pads and you had the big neck roll and, you were just, your shirt was tucked in just right and everything just looked right. It gave you this like superpower feeling that you were there and you took pride in your appearance and we were ready to go versus my old job used to have casual Fridays. And I can tell you for sure that the days I showed up in a nice pair of dress pants and either a button down or a polo shirt versus the days I showed up in jeans and a t-shirt for casual Friday, I was a lot more productive on those days where I was actually dressed for the job. I was a lot more comfortable in the jeans and t-shirt, but comfort doesn't always equal productivity, right? What happens is when you dress a certain way, you get yourself into a certain mindset. And whether that's sports, whether that's work, whether that's going out on a date, if you're confident in the way you're dressed and the way you present yourself, you are going to perform better. And I'll caveat that with saying you will not have the mental hurdles to get through to get to your peak performance level. You're more ready to hit those peak performance levels. Are you actually going to play football better because you look better? Maybe not. But your mindset is in such a place that you feel like you can succeed more because you're dressed for the role. And I think that's really important. Like I said, whether you're playing a sport, whether you're at work, whether you're going out on a date, whether you're just in the backyard cleaning up, we've all got those ripped pair of jeans and the nasty t-shirt that we could wear in the backyard to do the fall cleanup and nobody would care. But if you wear something a little bit different, you tend to just work that little bit better or take pride in your work a little bit more. It's a weird effect. I can't completely explain it, but it's something I've experienced multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, you think about this idea of, okay, what are the times where a man dresses up to impress somebody? Dates, if he goes to church, job interviews, weddings or social functions. Why can't that same mindset be adopted all the time? Yeah, you don't have to dress up like you would on a first date when you're going to work every day. But why don't you take that same level of accountability and take that same scenario just as seriously? That when I go to work today, I'm going to look good. And when you look good, you'll notice something about yourself. You feel when you look good. You know when you look good. You look in the mirror and you're like, I look good today. You're telling yourself a message. You're telling yourself that you're capable. And having that capability it has some of those effects that I mentioned earlier. Stand up a little straighter, the shoulders drop, like come back a little bit more. You're more likely to, kind of walk with the strut in your step, if you will. Those things matter. Those are differentiators. They really are. I don't care if you're going to Walmart. I don't care if you're going to, a pet store, wherever the hell you're going. If you take a moment to look better, you will feel better and you will exude that to others. Like other people will be able to feel that as well. Like that allows your presence to be felt. It allows your presence to be known. Yeah, maybe there are scenarios like if you're camping, you probably don't want to dress up all that well for camping. Or if you're changing the oil in your car, something like that. But those should be exceptions and not the norm. We've gotten this mindset that dressing the part, looking the part, and being that guy is the exception and not the norm. And we've got to shift that. We have to.
Yeah, when we talk about guys, what tips they can take to improve their appearance, I'm reminded of like the typical cowboy that you think of, right? You think of anybody who's seen Yellowstone or anything, right? Those guys are not what you would call high-end dressers, but they also take pride in their appearance. So what does that mean, right? It means buying clothes that fit correctly. It means not having holes or rips in your gear, having clean clothes, right? You look at a cowboy, right? Arguably one of the toughest jobs in the world, one of the dirtiest jobs in the world. They're on horses all day. They're in dusty, settings. But those guys always seem to just present themselves well, and it's actually a source of pride amongst cowboys in the sense of we're going to do a tough job and we're going to look good while we do it. So for all the guys out there, what you can do is you figure out your own style, right? You mentioned Tanner Guzzi before. He's got some great resources on figuring out your style and what works best for you. But at the end of the day, it's a couple of things. It's one, finding clothes that fit correctly. Two, if you can't buy those off the rack, have stuff tailored. It doesn't cost much to tailor like a button-down shirt or something. And you'd be surprised at how much better you look in a tailored shirt than just something off the rack. For instance, I'm a big guy, 6'2", and I'm wide in the shoulders. So to get stuff that fits my shoulders right, it ends up being stuff that, fatter guys have to wear. So a lot of shirts I'll end up getting tailored to bring the waist down just a little bit so that it fits right. Amazing the difference in the look it has between just a ballooned out shirt versus, a nice tailored t-shirt. The other thing is grooming. Have the beard, have the mustache, have, facial hair, whatever it is. Keep it groomed. And when I say keep it groomed, I don't mean necessarily short. You can have a nice long beard, but you keep that groomed, you keep it clean, you use, proper beard oils and brushes and stuff like that to keep it looking nice. Same with your haircut, right? Either, you and I shave our heads, so you keep that shaved regularly, or you go get a haircut on a regular basis. You just look good. You take pride in your appearance, make sure things are clean, things are neat, things look right. Your style can be whatever it is, but if you look neat and clean and things fit right, that is a huge push in the right direction.
You may not have your style defined. You may have a whole bunch of different stuff. You really don't have that pinned down. Coming back to Tanner Guzzi, because he's an awesome resource for this. He has his style archetypes that you can just go online and take to find out what kind of guy you are and what that archetype looks like. I will tell you, once you've identified that, here's something that really meant a lot to me. I've never really dressed well. I've always been a basketball shoes and poor fitting jeans or basketball shorts or joggers kind of guy. And my wife would look at me and there were times where she was pretty embarrassed with how I looked. And when I finally started to take it seriously a couple of years ago, one of the very first things that I did was I bought a nice pair of boots. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started in this, but if you find an article of clothing or something that you find significance in, whether that's a pair of boots, whether that's a blazer, whether that's a nice pair of slacks or jeans or whatever, you'll find power in that. I'll tell you, when I bought that first pair of boots, the leather pair of boots from Origin, got them on sale on Black Friday. Those boots were awesome. I would get them out and I'd condition them with, I'd put leather conditioner on them. I'd put these boots on, and the second I put them on, I felt different. I felt better about myself. It was almost an instantaneous thing. And as I take care of these boots, it feels good because I know that these boots are something significant that help me look better, help me look a little bit more capable as a man, and they're comfortable. That in and of itself is a huge step. And another thing that, again, this being Untaming Masculinity and what we talk about ad nauseum is workout. I will tell you that as you work out and as you start to take care of yourself, you feel better about yourself. You combine that with the efforts you're making to dress better, and it becomes obvious. It becomes natural. Like, I'm not going to sit here and sound egotistical or anything, but I try really hard to lift weights. Obviously, I talk about my jujitsu, so I'm exercising pretty regularly, and I look, strong. I look capable, and people notice. People comment on it. And when I can couple trying to dress well and trying to look good with the fact that physically I'm taking care of myself and it's noticeable by other people, that naturally helps me feel good. It becomes that much easier to stand taller. It becomes that much easier to make eye contact with people. It becomes that much easier to just feel better about yourself and give off that aura. It's a tremendously important piece if you're trying to redevelop or create, arguably for the first time, a sense of taking your appearance seriously.
Yep.
Those are two things that I could really emphasize. And the third, if I could, work on your posture. It's really easy to slouch over, kind of look down at your feet as you're shuffling around. Stand up straight, shoulders back. If you're not used to doing it, it might take some practice. It might take intentional focus. But again, it's one of those things you'll notice a tangible, almost instantaneous difference when you stand up, shoulders back as you're walking. And you'll realize how few guys actually do that. So those are just some things that I've tried to incorporate in my life that have made a really significant difference.
I can't overemphasize the last part that you talked about was posture, right? You see a guy walk into a room, regardless of how he's dressed. If his shoulders are rolled forward and his head is kind of down and he's a little bent over at the waist, that man does not exude any kind of confidence. Whereas if you see somebody walk in and their shoulders are back and their head is up, right, they look like they own the room. Now, they could both be equal in terms of education, mindset, capability, whatever you want to look at. But just their physical appearance is going to play hugely into how people perceive them. So it's very important to me that guys have a good posture. They look people in the eye. They have a great handshake. That shows that you are confident in yourself. And I'll give you one little hint that I've run into. With multiple shoulder surgeries, I've actually struggled with posture because when you don't do any work with your upper body, your tendency is to have your shoulders hunch forward, especially if you're an office worker, a desk worker, and you're on a computer all day. If you throw face pulls into your workout routine on a regular basis, a couple times a week, do like 3 sets, 15, 20, whatever, and you're literally just pulling back and opening up those shoulders, opening up those rear delts, that will actually help your posture. It'll pull those shoulders back. It'll help you get straightened up, and it'll help you have that stronger look that every guy is looking for. It's a really simple thing to do, but it will help you, and you'll have a much more intimidating, it's not the word, but a bigger presence when you walk into a room.
Literally. No, that's great, man. So we went over some different tips that guys can apply and some things that they can look at. So I guess something worth exploring is we're going to have a lot of guys who don't have that confidence, who struggling with their self-belief, who might not be as in good shape as they want. They might not necessarily have the wardrobe that they want. While we did give some tips there, let's talk a little bit to the guys who feel as if they don't check any of the boxes. Where do they start? What are some basic tips that a guy can do to get his feet off the ground, if you will?
So it's a little tough to give direct feedback or direct recommendations because every situation is different. Where I would start is put yourself in the situations that you're typically going to be in, whether it's work, social, whatever, and look at the guys who demand respect. Look at the guys in those situations who demand respect by their presence. What are they doing? How do they look? What are they wearing? What's their body language saying? What are they doing to forecast that? And then start to emulate that a little bit. I've talked a lot about work. For me, it's the shoulders back, the head up. You have confidence. you have a clean look to the way you're dressed. Like I said before, everybody's work situation could be different on what their expectation is for the dress, and a lot of companies have dress codes in particular. Work within those constraints, but also own the look as well, right? If my work is typically like dress pants and a collared shirt. Don't wear a raggedy old polo shirt with the collar all frayed and twirled up. Have a nice pressed collar, nice straight collar, a nice shirt that fits, one that isn't 15 years old and all kind of pilled and raggedy. Nice pressed pants. Drop your pants off at the dry cleaners every once in a while and get them pressed or iron them yourself. Nice shoes. Doesn't have to be expensive, but take care of them. Learn how to, shine your shoes, make them look nice, if that's the look that you're looking for. Otherwise, it's about just figuring out in the situation that you're in what the guys who demand respect look like and looking like that. And the other thing I want to throw out here too is it's important for this. We're talking about taking pride in your appearance. We're not talking about mimicking somebody else's look, right? You should have your own style of sorts. You need to be your own person, your own individual. So if you're a jeans and a jeans and flannel kind of guy, we're not telling you to go buy 3-piece suits and start dressing that way. Own the look that you're comfortable in and that fits your demographic or your situation. You know damn well what the guys who run in your circle who look good and people respect the way that they look like versus the guys who are just basically slobs. And you know where you stand. None of you guys are idiots. You can figure that part out. So you start to work towards the guys who have respect in that circle and what they look like, and work away from the slovenly side.
And looking the part is not an expensive endeavor. It's really easy to say, I don't have the money to dress well, which is, a lie that we tell ourselves to give ourselves an excuse to keep doing what we've been. One of my very favorite shirts that I have, it's a really nice shirt. It came from a thrift store. I paid $6 for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want to look the part, there are clearance sales all the time. There are opportunities at thrift stores. There's no reason why you can't borrow something from like a sibling to get yourself started or whatever that looks like. The fact of the matter is we oftentimes create these excuses for ourselves so that we can turn to those excuses when we don't take action. I can't dress well because I don't have money. Bull crap. I can't stand up straight because I haven't been in the gym in 2 years. Bull crap. Yeah, if you haven't been in the gym for 2 years, maybe that's something you should start doing. Maybe you could just simply start by taking a walk around the block. You will feel better taking a walk around the block than you would sitting on your couch.
Yep.
If you take a walk around the block, you get some of those endorphins. What's naturally going to happen? Your countenance will change. You'll notice yourself standing up a little bit straighter. A lot of these things happen naturally as we feel good about ourselves. What are some things you can do right now to feel good about yourself? Because as you feel good about yourself, naturally, you'll see some things change. Posture changes almost instantaneously when you feel good about yourself. It's easier to make eye contact with people when you feel good about yourself. It's easier to provide a better handshake when you feel good about yourself. Do things that feel good about yourself, and the results will almost instantaneously follow.
It's good advice. All right. So I hope you guys all found value here. It was a simple topic, I'll say, but it was an important topic because how we present ourselves is crucial in achieving success in life. We said it before at the beginning of the podcast, but we're not supposed to judge books by the cover, but everyone does. And if you can go in and you have an air of confidence, you have an air of self-pride, then people are going to take you more seriously and you're going to achieve more in life. And it's not hard to do. With that in mind, I want to thank you guys all for listening. Check us out on untamingmasculinity.com. You'll find show notes for this and all of our other episodes, as well as links to our social media. Check us out there. We've been pretty active on there lately. If you found value here, make sure you're giving us a rating and review on your podcast player. And finally, make sure you come back next week. We get some great content coming your way, and we're excited to share it with you. So until then, we will leave you with just one question. What are you doing to untame your masculinity?